All right, today we're going to build something that honestly feels a little bit like magic, but I promise you, it's all just simple, awesome science. We are going to turn a few basic electronic parts into our very own mini FM transmitter. Ready to jump in? Let's do this. So have you ever thought about what it would be like to have your own little radio station, broadcasting your voice, your music, whatever you want, right across the room to any old FM radio? Well, that's exactly what we're about to build, and you'll be shocked at how simple it is. It's a fantastic first step into the world of radio waves. Okay, so here's the plan. We'll kick things off by gathering all our components. Then we'll get our hands dirty assembling the circuit. After it's built, we'll dive into the really cool part, how it all works. And finally, we'll power it up and do some testing and troubleshooting. First up, let's grab our parts. First things first. Just like any good recipe, you gotta have your ingredients. Now, don't let this list scare you off. These are all super common parts you can find pretty much anywhere online or at an electronics shop. This is our blueprint for success. See? Not too bad, right? We've got a couple of transistors. These do the heavy lifting of amplifying the sound and creating the radio signal. Then we've got a few different capacitors and resistors, which basically just tell the electricity where to go. Of course, a microphone to capture your voice, a 9-volt battery for power, and a simple wire for the antenna. And the coolest part? We're actually going to make one of these components ourselves, the inductor coil. You're not going to believe how easy this is. You just take a piece of copper wire, grab a regular old pencil, and wrap the wire around it 5 times. That's it. This tiny little thing? Yeah. That's pretty much the heart of our entire transmitter. It's the key to creating and tuning our radio frequency. Okay, we've got all our parts. Time for the fun stuff. Let's put this thing together and bring it to life. Now, you wouldn't build a house without a blueprint, right? Same thing here. You're going to need a circuit diagram, and you can find tons of these online. Just search for something like a simple 2N2222 FM transmitter circuit. Seriously, think of this diagram as your treasure map. Each line shows you exactly where to connect everything on your breadboard. Just follow the map and you can't go wrong. So once it's all built, how in the world does this little collection of parts actually fling your voice across the room? Well, it's not magic. It's actually just 2 main jobs happening at the exact same time. So here's how it breaks down. On one side, you have the audio section. Your voice goes into the mic and the first transistor boosts it, making it louder and stronger. Meanwhile, the oscillator section with our homemade coil is creating a steady radio wave. This is called the carrier frequency. The best way to think about it is like this. The carrier wave is a big, fast-flowing river. Your voice, that's a little boat. The circuit's job is to put your voice boat onto that radio wave river and send it flowing out through the antenna. And this is where it gets really cool. This is where you get to be the DJ. The frequency isn't set in stone. Just by physically, squeezing or stretching that little copper coil you made, you're actually changing the river speed. You're changing the carrier frequency. You're literally tuning your radio station with your fingers. How awesome is that? All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. The circuit's built. We know how it's supposed to work. So let's fire it up, see if we can catch our own broadcast, and make some radio waves. Okay, here's the game plan. First, snap that 9-volt battery on. Next, turn on an FM radio and find a spot on the dial that's just static, no station. Now start talking into the mic on your transmitter, and I mean slowly. Start turning the dial on your radio. Or you can just leave the radio alone and gently pinch or pull apart your coil. When you hear your own voice crackle through, that's it, you've done it. Okay, but what if you hear nothing? First thing, do not panic. It's totally normal. This is a super simple circuit, which also means it can be a little finicky. It's all part of the fun, so let's check a few things. So here are the 3 most common culprits to check right away. First, your antenna. That wire needs to be as straight as possible. That's your megaphone to the world, so give it a clear path. Second, the coil. If the turns are too squished or too far apart, you might actually be broadcasting just on a frequency way outside the normal FM band that your radio can't find. And finally, stability. This little guy is sensitive. Once you find your spot, try not to move it around because even touching it can make the frequency jump. And that's it. You just built your own radio station with a handful of cheap parts. It's a perfect example of how accessible and just plain cool electronics can be. So the only real question left is, now that you can broadcast, what are you going to share?